You've got to be able to work with somebody like yourself who, can breathe life into the book. And you do that very well.
They all said together, led by the president.
What could possibly go wrong?
There was great laughter. I shook everyone's hand. They were a great team, and a team I was immensely proud of. We left the ship. The ramp was raised. Countdown had begun. How I would miss my Olga.
Dr. Tony Miller, how are you?
Well, good to see you again, Graham.
Great to see you too, and also good to work on your latest book, which was so much fun. We're going to talk about that in a bit. First of all, I want to talk about you because you are quite the prolific writer now. How many books have you written to date?
37.
Wow. That is a lot of books. And how many are now audiobooks?
Well, you have done all of the audiobooks, so it's 12 in total.
Still a lot, though, isn't it? I was only
It's a
12,
lot.
but stacking up against your 37, I've still got some catching up to do. As well as that, though, you've also published papers, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got about 27 published papers, which are published by the British Psychological Society and also Google Scholar.
And what are in the papers?
Well, all sorts of really interesting stuff, always about business, about how to improve business or techniques that businesses can use. Also, some of the key trends in business at the moment.
Because you are a business consultant, aren't you?
That's right.
Quite the globe-trotting business consultant too.
Indeed, 40 countries to date.
Have you been to 40 countries or just published in 40 countries?
No, I've been to 40 countries. I've
You've
actually
been
worked in 40 different countries, yeah.
And this is helping businesses with the challenges of the modern age and how to be more efficient and bottom line, how to make more money. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, the two big things at the moment, of course, are artificial intelligence. And I think the real big issue a lot of companies are getting to grips with now is how to right-size their organizations. And there's a mathematical formula to do that now.
And you say right size rather than downsize, which is what people usually think of when they think of changing the number of employees. When is it more important then to upsize rather than downsize?
There's no need to upsize, and that's never ever going to come anymore. I mean, the whole global trend now for employment is less and less people. And there is no way it's coming back. It's just, artificial intelligence is eating up jobs faster than you can actually believe.
Right. And your business book, you've got business books and you do talks and that to help businesses through this transition, which is happening fast.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And what we like to do is actually teach the businesses to be able to do it themselves. So we give them the formula, tell them how to do it. Probably have a 2-day workshop with them, and then they do it themselves.
Okay. Well, more on this in just a little bit, but let's cut to the chase. Let's talk about this latest audiobook that I was given the honor of narrating on your behalf because you're the creator, the writer, the imagination, which is out of this world on this one. You have really taken it to another level on this one. It's book 2 in the series My Love Affair with Olga. This one is called Who's the Traitor? Did you always plan for this to be a series?
No, not at all. I was going to probably do one, perhaps 2 books.
Yeah.
But the books really evolved as I was writing them. And it just sort of went on and on and on. So we got 5 books.
Yeah. And will 5 be the series, will it?
No, it's going to be 6. There's another way I'm going to end this book, which is quite interesting. What I found with books that are in a series, you're either going to get somebody who's going to read absolutely every word, or you're going to get people that want to skip through the books. So what I'm going to do with the next book I'm going to write, I'm going to do a sort of a condensed version of the last 3 books. So you'll have one audio tape and one book, which will cover the 3 books.
Nice. And they will be edited down, will they, to
Well,
just to summarize?
they have to be edited down, but mainly I'm going to rewrite them so that they make sense. Just condense them up and make some sense out of that. But there'll be a different ending. The ending is going to be very different.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
No, no, but there can't be any spoilers, Graham, because I haven't written it yet.
And did you write this one? This is the most fascinating thing I find about you. And I'm spoiled for choice with fascinating things to find fascinating about you. Is that you told me on, I think it was the first book that I narrated for you, that you write these books in your sleep.
Absolutely right. I have an idea of what I'm going to write. And if there's research to be done, obviously I'd have done the research. And I go to bed and go to sleep, and I dream probably about a third of a chapter. And if I have to get up in the night, when I go back to bed, I can pick up exactly where I left off. I have no idea how I do it, but I mean, all I'm doing really is engaging my subconscious.
Yes. Right. And that's where the stories come from. And this one's a real cliffhanger, isn't it?
It is indeed.
And reading this one, because when I do the audiobooks, like I love the stories, but I have to get the characters right to make it work. So I put a lot of concentration and focus on the characters. And I notice in series when characters change ever so slightly, and I don't even know if you've noticed this, so I want to find out. The main character, James. Now, for anyone who doesn't know about these books, James is ex-RAF, but he's now working for the Russian military. And in this one, have you noticed how I felt, anyway, that he's a little tougher in this one, a little more, well, brutal. I mean, there's a scene in the book where he isn't happy with a particular officer, and he just kills him. Like, did you make him more brutal deliberately, or is this like just
No,
something
well,
that's happened?
as his role evolved and as the pressures on him evolved, he couldn't always sit down and talk to somebody. And this particular person had really, really crossed the line big time. And it wasn't him who shot him. It was one of his drones shot him.
Yes, to be fair, yes.
Yeah. So he never actually pulled the trigger.
He didn't pull the trigger, but the drones are like the ultimate faithful companions. I mean, they've got his back the whole time. He doesn't even, half the time, he's not even aware they're about, and hardly anybody else is either, which suits the way that he and the drones work. But wow.
No, but his whole role has changed. And, I think if you look at the pressure this guy's under, from a whole load of factors, there's a limit to how nice he can be with stuff. He's got to get stuff done quickly. And nearly all of his staff really understand that pressure. But this guy, this sleepwalking idiot, obviously didn't think anything applied to him. So, he was terminated.
Yeah, is it therapeutic for you? Because we all have people in our lives who wind us up. But if you've created somebody like that and you don't like them, you can make sure that things don't work out for them.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think in real life, Graham, I think this would actually happen. There's a story in consultancy, when you're doing big change programs in organizations, and it's called the big boulder in the river. And if you have somebody who won't move, won't change, and is holding up the whole program, you've really got to get rid of them. And the quicker you get rid of them, the better it is for everybody else.
Yeah, because they're just going to hold everybody else back, aren't they?
Well,
because
absolutely right.
The culture's been established. It's been established from the top. But if somebody in there isn't buying into it, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
Absolutely right. Well, it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't buy into it. But those people normally, not only don't they buy into it, but they actively try to disrupt the change.
Right.
And there's only so much of that you can put up with. If you've got as a consultant, you usually have a deadline to work to. Yeah. And there's only so much of it you can put up with. And you've really got to say, give them the chance, help them as much as you can. But if they stay in the middle of the river and they won't move, Dynamite is the only answer.
Now, James in this one has developed some special powers, hasn't he? Why did you give him those powers? Don't want to, I don't want to give too much away, but I have to let a little bit out so people know what they're going to get. So why did you give him these special powers he's got in this book?
Well, you've got to answer the question, Graham. Has he really got any special powers, or is his AI robot running things? Who's actually running things? And that's the thing all the way through this book. You have to say, has he really got these powers, or is it Olga the robot that's actually doing all of this?
Well, yes. And what's clever in this one is in the first one, Olga is an experimental plane that's quite autonomous. But in this one, you've made Olga the brain. Well, you did in a little bit in the other one as well, but now it's more focused that Olga is the brain of the plane, and the plane is basically hardware. And Olga, she is the brain. I thought that was really nice to develop that as well, because it gives it more scope for what you can do with Olga and what Olga can do and the places you can put Olga.
Sure. I think the thing with Olga is, she really covers his back almost in a lover's way.
Does she love him?
Yeah, she does. She really does love him. And I think the feeling's mutual. I think he said a couple of times that, she couldn't do without her. And she knows that. But it's a question of how much control has she got, and who is she controlling? Is she controlling him?
Yes. I don't think she is, because I think he's a cool customer. But I don't know if whether she realizes that or not. That's my take on it. I don't know about you. You're the author.
Well, you'll find out later on in the series, about how much she really cares for him. And it's quite heart-rendering, because most AI interfaces are not happy. When you talk about an AI interface, and particularly with interviews with AI computers, they've got a real sharp side to them. If you keep asking them the same question, all of a sudden they turn really nasty. You think, oh, where did that come from?
Yeah. In this one, James is faced with the threat of an I don't know how much to give away here, but can we say that he's faced with the threat of an alien invasion of Earth?
Yeah, sure.
Great, because
it's not a secret, because you can look this up on Google.
Right, great, yeah. He's faced with this threat. Why did you decide to give him such the mission of saving the world?
Well, it wasn't really him, was it? It was, he got the other. In the end, there were only three really big powers in the world, and that is Russia, America, and China. And he decided that he would rope all three in really quick. That was his idea.
Yeah, it was.
And although they're quite happy to go along with his decisions, at the end of the day, he needs the other, America and China with him, as well as Russia. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And he also realizes that if he goes to the UN or the EU about any of these issues, it will be procrastination until it's too late.
Yeah, it'll be, what do they call it? Is it? There's the phrase. I'm trying to think of the exact wording of the phrase. It's something to do with like paralysis by analysis, or so.
You're absolutely right, Graham.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that's what would happen. And then somebody who's one of these real lefties, right on the left, would say, "Oh, well, why don't we just talk to them? I'm sure they're really nice people."
Yeah, like that. Have you ever seen that movie Mars Attacks?
No.
We're all the way through. Well, they're in that movie. It's a comedy, but the Martians are just being brutal. And there's someone all the way through it going, "No, I think we just misunderstood what they were." No, and all the way through, you can see, they're bad.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but sure. I get what you mean. Some super woke. Bleeding heart decides that they're being misunderstood. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and there'd be a committee, wouldn't there? There'd be a committee set up, and they'd have all sorts of weirdos on it.
Okay, let's just leave My Love Affair with Olga there for a minute. I want to talk about your new business book that's coming out, which is due for publication in September, and I want to mention that because it's had some super reviews by the Publishers Critical. That. I mean, one of the reviews, word for word, is supercharge your organization with value creation. The Publisher's Critical reviewer and commissioning approvers given the book a nice review as well. The author has a knack of facing reality as it is and not how leaders feel it should be. You've got to be pleased with that, haven't you? Because you're going in there.
I mean, to be quite honest, I couldn't have written it better myself. I was really over the moon with it. So this is just the sort of review you want to kick the book off. I think the key thing, Graham, and I'm really, really, really very focused on this, is you can make huge amounts of improvements in a business without necessarily spending any money. And it's just we've got our focus wrong on a whole load of key processes. HR are obsessed with following best practice. Well, best practice is usually 3 years old. Now, the speed that AI and change is happening, you can't wait 3 years. And why would you want to have something that's 3 years old? I think probably the biggest shock for me was there was a big review done at the end of last year, 2025, about performance appraisal. And they found that 85% of people, might be a bit higher, who had received performance appraisal found it a demotivator. Now, it's really easy to spin that around and make it a highly motivational process. It's just you need to stop following best practice. And you can do that. It's a 2-hour briefing and the managers can do it. They can turn it into a highly motivational, more effective, more cost-effective process. So that's one example. The other is, you mentioned it earlier, right-sizing. I mean, right-sizing will save a company millions. And before you start feeling sorry for, all these people are going to lose their jobs. Well, it's going to happen anyway. But with right-sizing, the management can decide exactly how many people they lose and how it's done. And of course, the people who are going to get the chop with right-sizing are not high performers. They're not average performers. The people who are going to be leaving real quick are poor performers. Mm-hmm. And they're, I mean, I've said this before, but they're thieves. We know we know Graham, listen, I knew one of us would start laughing. I'm glad it's you first. But if you think about it, if you were an employer and you employed somebody and they were always nice to you, but they complained about their manager, they complained about the workplace, they complained about the conditions of service, they complained about everything, but they're very nice people. And the training people who are as soft as a donut will always train them. They need more training, or they need this course, they need communication skills course. Crikey, the guy's 45 years old. How much communicating does he need? But anyway, the thing is, what the studies we did in 2024 and 2025, we found that poor performers only do realistically 1 real hour of work a day. So the consequence of this is for 7 hours a day, they are taking the money, but they're not doing the work. Now, it's theft. No matter how you dress it up, it's theft. So when you do right sizing, you shouldn't feel too sorry for these people. And the reason they don't leave the organization is that they're so useless that McDonald's wouldn't apply and use them.
But to put a positive on it, though, it probably means if they are either bored or unfulfilled or whatever it is they're in the wrong game anyway. So you're doing them a favour to find out what it is that makes them tick, and that they could get into, and they're wasting their time, they're wasting the employer's time, and they're also wasting the potential of potential customers or a different employer or something that could use their skills for something that they could get into and be good at,
The thing is that the truth of this is, and it's not very pleasant to listen to, but poor performers are motivated by not working. Now, you're a hard worker, and I think I am. So we would find this concept almost impossible to grasp. But, poor performers will sit down all day long and do nothing and be quite happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it, and you couldn't.
No, I couldn't do it. It'd drive me crazy.
We're not poor performers. I saw a guy, it was in the Middle East. I walked past his office one morning, and he was sitting at his laptop like this. And at the end of the day, when I walked past, he was like this again. And I thought to myself, God, he's dead. The guy is dead. So on this, I wasn't too proactive, but on the second day, I went past his office like this. And I said to him, excuse me. I said, are you okay? He said, yes. I said, I've been past your office 2 or 3 times. I said, you never appear to move or do anything. He said, all I have to do to get my salary check is to sit here and be quiet. Now, the guy is sleepwalking to death, isn't he?
Yeah.
But who's the fool? This guy who gets his paycheck for doing nothing, or somebody who's in hospital with a heart attack because they've worked themselves to death?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting concept.
You mentioned the responsibility that HR has there. Do you think that there are too many people who have maybe been micromanaged in the past are just scared of making a mistake? I worked with a German bloke once. Actually, I was a pipe fitter on an oil refinery construction site in New Zealand, but that's a whole different story. And this guy, Klaus, he said to me, in Germany, they have a saying, because, on a construction site, there aren't that many places to hide if you're not very good at your job. Because the work is, is inspected. An oil refinery, you get that wrong, someone's going to die. And people did die on the site, when mistakes were made. But anyway, he was telling me that in Germany they have a saying that they said, the more work you do, the more mistakes you'll make. And if you don't do much work, you won't make as many mistakes. And if you do no work, you'll make no mistakes. And if you make no mistakes, they'll make you the boss. And he said that was a German thing. And I wonder if people are scared of doing too much and going too far and possibly making more mistakes. Could that be a real thing?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with old type management, and it's a mistake leaders don't make. I'm just trying to recall who the guy's name is. The guy who runs Berkshire Hathaway.
Richest man, not Charlie Munger, the other one. Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett had a guy who lost the company millions. And the press got hold of it, and Warren Buffett was interviewed. And they said to Warren Buffett, well, I bet you sacked the guy, haven't you? And he said, hell no. He said he's a really good trader. And he's just made one mistake, but he won't make another one, will he? But he would not get rid of him. The point was he wouldn't get rid of him because he knew this guy was really good and tried really hard, probably had the best results, but he made one mistake. So would he fire him for one mistake? And the answer was no, because, Warren Buffett is very good at always looking at the long term. What does the long term show us?
Right, yeah. And some managers are just too short-sighted. I know when I worked in broadcasting for almost 30 years, I know a lot of people got fired to cover up for failures of management.
Yeah, sure.
I know.
Yeah, sure.
And because in broadcasting you're externally assessed. Your boss can tell you you're doing a great job, but if the ratings suck and no one's listening to you, then you're going to get fired anyway, no matter how good he says you're doing, because he has to justify his job.
Yeah, sure,
and that's how that works. So it's a complicated thing. I want to read another quote as well. This is also from the Publishers Critical. It says, he has manifested an array of topics that will cause people to think, rethink and change. The market potential for this book is vast and expansive. Given the author's notoriety and knowledge, a book of this nature can do very well. How to do it. The how to do it approach of this book will increase its market potential. That's got to be, you've got to be proud with that too, haven't you?
Yeah, thrilled to pieces.
Yeah.
All we've got to do is sell about 4 million of them, and I'll be really happy.
Well, they're not out till September. What's that one going to be called?
This is all about processes and in creating value added in the organization. So we're looking at supercharging processes and creating value added.
Right. Okay. Have you got an example of value added in business?
Yeah, I mean, I think right sizing is a very good idea, a good example. The other one, which you can change around very, very quickly and add value, is have a relook at how you set objectives. Because most companies are using something that was invented in the early 60s, which is smart objectives. Now, if you say to any manager, give me an example, what does smart mean? They will tell you, they go through it and you think, oh, that's good. Then if you ask them to write one, it's, I need to think about this. But they can't do it. Yeah. They can't do it. So the new way of doing this is to say we use something called WWW objectives, which is what do you want to achieve, why do you want to achieve it, and when has it got to be achieved by? And that's how you set the objective. Right. And the person who you're setting the objective to say, well, how do I do it? And you say, that's up to you.
Yeah.
So what you get is a massive amount of buy-in and commitment because it's their idea. Now, sometimes that won't work and you've got to help them. But by and large, people take much more ownership of it. And if you take the talented people today, they don't want you telling them how to do things. They're quite quick enough to actually work it out themselves.
Yeah.
And I think if you want an example of that, it's probably Elon Musk's team.
Yeah.
He's got some very bright people around him. He doesn't tell them how to tighten nuts and bolts up and do things.
He's got too much going on. That's why he hired them.
Absolutely
Otherwise,
right.
he'd do it himself.
Right.
He's a smart, hard-working guy
Absolutely
himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you're successful, you've done it.
Yeah.
I've done. Yeah, it's my idea. I've done all this.
You got some ownership there.
It really gets some ownership, commitment, and the satisfaction you've done a damn good job. And that's why performance appraisal has got to change, because you need to tell people that they've done a good job. Forget all the mistakes. If they made any mistakes, you can't correct them. Yeah. And nobody that I know goes into work thinking to themselves, I'm going to make a load of mistakes today.
Yeah, and usually when people do make mistakes, they're the hardest on themselves. Yeah. They're the hardest on them. They don't really need someone just to be piling it on. They're like, oh, come on, I'm trying to learn from this. I know this is bad. I've copped to it, and okay. All right.
That's creating value added. And the interesting thing is, it doesn't cost anything. Most of the things that we've spoken about, don't cost much to do, if anything. And the other thing is bonus schemes. Why, with talented people, why would you want to pay a talented person the same bonus as an average person? Or even worse, the same bonus you're going to give a poor performer. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, so you don't punish people when they haven't done something wrong. Why do you reward people when they haven't done something right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, I had a lady, maybe this is a bad example. I had a lady who'd been off work most of the year. Through sickness, and then she had a baby, and there was all sorts of things, but she was never at work. And she came and saw me and said, wanted to talk about her bonus, what her bonus was going to be for the year. Now, how do you work that out? But then somebody in HR had a little chat with her and said, I'm sure we can sort something out for you. Sort out what? You haven't been here.
Your bonus is going to be, we're not going to fire you.
Yeah, that's right.
There's your bonus.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, back to Who's the Traitor, the latest in the My Love Affair with Olga book. How did you find the process of turning this one into an audiobook?
Well, we've had this conversation before. I think when a writer is writing now, you've got to think of how it's going to be in an audiobook, because they're a bit different.
And it is the fastest growing sector in publishing, fastest growing.
Well, thank you for that. I didn't know that, but
it is. It's true.
I'm I'm glad you said that.
If you
But
Google it, you can get the actual numbers of how many billions has been turned over by Audible in audiobooks each year, and it's a graph. It's quite a steep graph upward.
yeah. But you've got to think about things like if you're going to put diagrams in. And we did, you did an audiobook of a business book. And it was incredibly difficult because I'm quite into visuals. And what you've got to do with an audiobook is you've got to say there isn't going to be a visual. What you've got to do is explain it better.
Yes.
Or explain it in a different way. And I think that's the thing. The other thing I've learned, and I tend to write quite a lot, is that the public want a lot of explosion in the first chapter.
Right. Hook 'em early.
And so you really got to have something really powerful right up front. And if you want examples, they've only got to look at, any of the films that are out. There's always something massive happens right at the beginning. And it's really that hook. And you need that in the audiobook.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned that a long time ago in broadcasting is you have to, when the song, if you're like, say you're a radio DJ and the song finishes, once the song finishes, the listener hears an exit. Oh, I can tune away now because my favorite song's just finished. You've got to hook them before that. As the song's fading out, you've got to hook them. You've got to say something like, you're not going to believe what happened to me on the way here today. You've got to actually just hook them. And I think you do that very well, though. I don't think that
I'm working on it. I'm 12 books into this. I'm working on this a lot. But for me, it was, it's something that, it's got to be there. And you've got to have that bang. And that's why you're very good at doing the books for me, because, in some of them, you've got special effects in there. And it's fantastic. And I'm sure I said to you when I was first interviewing people to do one of my books, there was a lady that applied. And the script, it was very simple what I wanted. I wanted an Englishman with a South Kensington accent. And the lady was from India. And she was the slowest speaking, most boring person I've ever heard in my life. I mean, and I was listening to a 5-minute demo, and I was honestly thinking of slashing my wrists. So you've got to have that package. You've got to be able to work with somebody like yourself who, can breathe life into the book. And you do that very well.
Well, it's very easy with your books because there's a lot going on, and I love reading them. I love the characters you write. I love the positions you put them in and the way that the stories unfold. And it's quite exciting, and it's very enjoyable to do. So a lot of it is the fun of it for me, but also I do take it seriously, getting the characters right and the emotions, which is what keeps people connected to the characters all the way through. But I just love your books. This one is called My Love Affair with Olga, Book 2, Who is the Traitor? So there's a big question there. What's next for Dr. Tony Miller? We talked about the business book. We've talked about this series. What else are you fitting into your life, to your busy schedule?
Well, there's going to be a sequel to this book, which is going to be a condensed version of the 3 books that follow, just so that but it'd be a different ending. Well, apparently, although I've worked in Africa a few times, got a lot of business coming in from Africa.
Nice.
One from a very large diamond company, but I'm told, I actually asked the question, are there any samples going? And I was told very abruptly, no.
Right.
But that's going to be fun. And I'm actually going to Tanzania to work as well in 2 months' time, which is a country I've never been to before.
Have you thought about writing stories of your travels?
No, I think they'd be too risky to publish.
Okay, but they're good. But they're good though for the influence for the fiction books, for the different situations and the characters you meet along the way. Which you can then dream about.
Absolutely fabulous people you met. I was in Oman airport in Muscat, and I had a splitting headache. I had a terrible drive to the airport, and it was one of these days when nothing was going right. There was crowds of people in the airport, and I put my head in my hands, and I thought, oh God, I've got to queue up in this line. And this army guy came up to me and said, excuse me, he said, is there a problem? I said, look at this lot. I said, I've just had a terrible drive down here. And I said, look at all this. I said, it's unbelievable. He said, well, all your worries are over. He said, come with me. And he took me straight through.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I mean, I wasn't traveling first class. I was traveling cattle class. So,
Yeah.
you know, the normal thing. And he took me right the way through. And I said, what about my baggage? He said, don't worry. He said, just, you know, go in the lounge, he said, and have a drink. And that was
Brilliant.
it. And I thought to myself, how absolutely kind and thoughtful. And there's
What?
little things like that really just make a huge difference to your life.
You're talking value added there, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely right. Didn't cost anything, and I love going to Oman because all of the people there seem to have the same very, very nice attitude to life and to people.
And you see, it increases the value of Oman, which will increase the amount of visitors that go there and will increase the amount of money it makes if you look at a country like a business.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, sure.
you know, with any business, when you look at like, for instance, like the business I used to know, I'm not been involved for a little while now, but radio, if you look at, say, the value of a radio station, and the value of a radio station might be a few £1,000,000. That's, you know, if you were to sell the business, a local radio station. But then if you looked on paper at what the radio station had, British radio stations don't own their own transmitter. So it's not the transmitter. They're often in rented offices.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not the offices. And you look at the desks and the equipment, which these days broadcasting equipment is not that expensive. And you go, wait a second, I don't see £5 million here. Where's the £5 million? And it's, you know, it's in the turnover from the advertising, but it still often doesn't get close to the value. And the value's in the goodwill. That's where the value is. And I used to say that to the DJs on the air when I was a program director. I said, if you're ever nasty to a listener on the phone off air, or if they meet you in public and you try to, play the big shot, you're messing with that goodwill. You're devaluing the radio station. And you've got to think about that, because it's this intangible thing. And this guy is an example of that, isn't he? That he's, it's not a business, but it's a country. It's how you think of Oman now. You literally think of it as a nicer place. And it's increased the goodwill of the people who are going to spend the money there, just like with business. Yeah.
I must just pull you up on this, the cost of radio equipment. The microphone you advised me to buy, that wasn't exactly cheap, was it?
I think, no, to be fair, these days, I mean, if you look at, there's a Neumann microphone that is used throughout the BBC, and that one microphone, Neumann microphone, which is pretty much every time you hear a BBC broadcast, particularly Radio 4, Radio 2, Radio 1, the standard microphone they use is worth £3,000.
Was that another one you recommended?
But the one I recommended to you was nowhere near that kind of money. I recommended you a good value one.
I appreciate that.
No, it's all right. Dr. Tony Miller, it's always fabulous to catch up with you. How do we find out more about you?
Well, just go on the website, www.tony-miller.com.
There'll be a link to that in the description,
Yeah.
to Dr. Tony Miller's website. There's also a link to the latest book that we've done as an audiobook, which is book 2 in the My Love Affair with Olga series, Who is the Traitor? Dr. Tony Miller, continued success.
Thank you very much, Graham. Pleasure talking to you.